Was your Tyler's back with my next wrestling dumpster fires video, and this is a dumpster fire, alright. This is basically the nail in the coffin for WCW in 2000. That is, go back 3 years ago to that. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that those periods again, like New Blood Rising. That is, but there were some shows that were watchable. That is. So let's talk about it. So I want to talk about before this storyline. So let's talk about what happened in September '99 when Eric Bischoff was fired from WCW. That is, and they had to put in Vince Russo in October, and say what you will, he gave Bret Hart the WCW title too little, too late. So another dumpster fire video I did on this channel. But then due to the injuries of both Bret Hart and Jeff Jarrett, so Vince Russo has this idea of giving the WCW title to Tank Abbott, but that did not happen, and yeah, he was gone afterwards. Now let's skip to the beginning of this storyline. WCW announced that Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff are coming back to run the company, and the April 10th Nitro begun this storyline. All the belts were vacated. That's like the third time WCW title was vacated in that same year. Basically, this is dumpster fire, alright. This reboot of WCW was 6 days before Spring Stampede. We saw the debut of Mike Awesome, and yeah, that's a future episode right there. Edition, I meant. Began the feud of Shane Douglas, Ric Flair, and Hulk Hogan and Billy Kidman. And then we get the Spring Stampede. There were 14 matches, like I mentioned before, but I'm just talking about what happened on that word. Terry Funk won the Hardcore title. He was a Millionaires Club associate. Chris Candido of the New Blood won the Cruiserweight title. Shane Douglas and Buff Bagwell won the tag team titles. Scott Steiner of the New Blood, sort of, because he was not really a part of the New Blood. He was just an associate. Won the United States title, and Jeff Jarrett won the WCW Championship from Diamond Dallas Page, thanks to Kimberly turning heel in the process. That also began on the Diamond Dallas Page and Jeff Jarrett feud. That happened on the April 10th Nitro. Side note, there, almost forgot about that. Well, I almost didn't want to forget that because Diamond Dallas Page won the WCW Championship from Jeff Jarrett, only for the next 2 days later on Thunder, Dave Arquette won the WCW title. Side note: Dave Arquette does not want to be the champion. So that's why, because I understand why he was in WCW for a little while, because to promote the movie Ready to Rumble, which we already know about. But yeah. So yeah. And the whole Hogan and Billy Kidman thing happened on the April 10th Nitro, where I mentioned this feud already. Sooner or later, I'm going to have to do the 10 worst WCW rivalries in the spring to like go back to the old what am I trying to say? Do some of my old stuff again, except reviews, because I already reviewed some of this stuff. Maybe I'll do, I don't know what I want to do. So yeah, that led to Bischoff hitting Hogan with the chair, and the White Hogan returns with Bischoff being in it. That's another like wrestling dumpster fires video right there, or maybe another countdown list someday. And then let's talk about what happened the night after, where Hogan was basically beating the shit out of Kidman all the time. And you wouldn't think Hogan was not going to fight with somebody small like Billy Kidman, but that did happen. But we'll get to Hogan near the end, but yeah. And of course, the whole Ric Flair, Shane Douglas shit basically where Shane Douglas mocks Ric Flair and all this shit. That's yeah. And oh yeah, let's not talk about the other feud that happened on the April 10th Nitro, Sting and Vampiro. Not sad. I'll talk about that sooner or later because we'll talk about when you get to the Great American Bash month time period. So yeah, that's basically the main 4 feuds in this whole thing. Yeah, I had that stuff between Luger and Bagwell, but that was just they feuded before in the NWO storyline, which yeah, was like the Luger versus Chuck Palumbo, and also Steven Gibbons, Kurt Hennig, and Shawn Stasiak. Yeah, that's WWF was. I don't think WWE ever don't even care about that because they won the war already. But yeah, that's the only other like sub feuds there, and also Misfits in Action and the Filthy Animals. But yeah, now let's get to Slamboree. You know what we're. Chris Candido, the New Blood, retained the Cruiserweight title. Terry Funk retained the Hardcore Championship. Ric Flair, or no, Lex Luger won. Shane Douglas won his match also. Hulk Hogan won his match. And Jeff Jarrett won back to WCW title because David Arquette turned heel also. So yeah. Like I mentioned before. And also that all began the whole Mike Awesome Diamond Dallas Page feud. Which they had that spot where Mike Awesome threw Canyon off the first triple cage to the ramp in the same building that Owen Hart died in a year prior. But yeah. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about, the triple cage basically. And then Ric Flair won the WCW title like 2 weeks after Slamboree. And then Jeff Jarrett was awarded the next week on Nitro. And then Kevin Nash won the WCW title on Thunder 2 days after that. Just to give it back to Ric Flair and then drop it to Jeff Jarrett all that time. Seriously. And also, like I forgot to mention in Slamboree, that began the Ric and David Flair feud. So yeah, and oh yeah. The continuation of the Sting and Vampiro feud after Slamboree, because, yeah, the Human Torch match. So we move on to the Great American Bash month pay-per-view. So, and oh yeah, Scott Steiner left the New Blood to join the Millionaires Club, sort of. Because it's Scott Steiner, he's out of fucking control in WCW in a good way. And also began a feud with Tank Abbott for fucking reason, and his brother Rick Steiner also. Where's his, and also the whole birdcage shit. They call it a sign, but it was technically like a birdcage, basically. So Great American Bash 2000, it was next. So we get to the bigger stuff. I'm not gonna talk about every other match because if you want to see these reviews for the WC periods, that is from Spring Stampede 2000 all the way to Great American Bash of the Beach 2000. They're on the channel. That was back 3 years ago. So Ric Flair kept his career until the next night on Nitro, that is. And yeah, this is the match where a young Charlotte Flair handcuffed Vince Russo, which I forgot what she mentioned it. She didn't remember it, which is kind of funny to me because yeah. Hogan kept his career and got a WCW title shot. The fucking Human Torch match, and the biggest thing of it all. It was right before the Great American Bash. Goldberg returned, and in this period, he turns heel. We already mentioned. Stupid heel turn. It never should have happened. I already did that in my now defunct What Ifs. Because that's done. I'm done with the What Ifs. Right here, yes. So Jarrett retains WCW title. And oh yeah, Hogan, the night before the last Nitro before Great American Bash, went back to his Hollywood Hogan persona. And then we're going to skip all the way to the end to Bash at the Beach 2000. The night that ended the whole storyline led to Hogan's last night in WCW, and also Eric Bischoff also. The scheduled match was supposed to be Jeff Jarrett versus Hulk Hogan. Or Hollywood Hogan, rather, for the WCW title. You already mentioned. We already know. Jeff Jarrett lied down to Hogan. And, of course, the whole Vince Russo this was all supposed to lead to Hogan coming back at I guess the night after Halloween Havoc 2000, but Hogan, said this he had there were lawsuits, and yeah, Vince Russo said he was playing his creative control, which it's Hulk Hogan, brother. But yeah, but this and there's other stuff like Goldberg defeating Kevin Nash thanks to Scott Steiner. What was remaining of the Millionaires Club turned on Kevin Nash and Scott Hall was done with WCW also, which Scott Hall was blackballed from WCW by this point we already mentioned. But yeah, and then we talk about Booker T winning the WCW Championship. Also, Scott Steiner was a babyface at the night, was fighting Mike Awesome, which we already know. It led to Steiner. The Steiner clan in storylines was banned in storyline. That is, Scott Steiner, was relinquished of the was stripped of the United States title on that night, but then turned heel at the end. Typical Vince Russo. But then the ending was Booker T winning the WCW title. That show overall was not bad for that. That's the end of storyline. Yes, there was that disastrous New Blood Rising, but that storyline was over by that pay-per-view. The New Blood didn't exist at this point. The Millionaires Club did not exist at this point. Bash of the Beach 2000 was the end of the storyline, basically. And yes, Sting returned at that event, and that storyline continued after the New Blood Millionaires Club storyline. Blech. But yeah. I mean, there were one positive. That was Booker T winning the WCW title at Bash of the Beach, but that's basically it. Now, Vince Russo, 8-9 years later, used this exact same storyline with the Main Event Mafia versus the Frontline one in TNA, which that one was a little better because there were because yeah, it was just 5 wrestlers versus the TNA originals at that point. That one I'm okay with. But yeah, this whole thing was not going to work from the beginning, and it was a dumpster fire. Just like that. But yeah. Anyways, tomorrow I'll do my Dynamite review. It's just going to be a pre-recorded video. I don't know. I'll do my Dynamite review tomorrow. Probably live or just regular uploads. But anyways. And also, I will talk about in full detail why Rhea Ripley was not the right opponent for Charlotte. I'll talk about that on Thursday, perhaps. Anyways, like this, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, bye.